bringing you this midweek mailbag. The night before opening day, I am rocking with my Orioles as I do every year. So if you are a baseball fan, it's like the night before Christmas. So we are almost there. But in midweek mailbag, guys, what I do is I answer your questions. So today I'll be answering questions regarding lesser known Democrats, the Department of Defense group chat debacle, the Fight the Oligarchy Tour, and I'm going to finish talking a little bit about my podcast setup. So if you guys want any of your questions answered in the future, you can comment on any of my content on Instagram or YouTube. I'm eventually going to make a Facebook, but not quite there yet. Or you can always email me at tjacksunpacks@gmail.com. All of that will be below in the description. So first question for the midweek mailbag is, who are some underrated Democratic politicians to look out for in the upcoming future, in the present? So people who are underrated or lesser known, I guess, comes down to a lot of times how closely you follow politics. So I'm going to throw out some who are more known to me, just so you guys know kind of the span I'm working with or how I'm categorizing people. So I look at like two flanks of the Democrats, honestly, the progressives and then the more corporatist centrist Democrats. So mainstream progressives, I look at it like AOC, Bernie Sanders. I think Jasmine Crockett has now thrown her name into the mainstream with a lot of her viral clips. And then someone like Elizabeth Warren, who has run for president and who has been a progressive for quite some time. Now, some of the corporate Democrats, I look at people like Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, and Nancy Pelosi, right? Some of those entrenched, more well-known centrist Democrats. Now, for the list of those to look out for who are lesser known, I'm going to start with a more centrist Democrat, and that is Chris Murphy from Connecticut. He is someone who I think is going to push for the nominee in the 2028 presidential election. And he recently appeared on The Daily Show talking a little bit about healthcare reform. And any politician, guys, who is doing huge media tours, generally it's a good indication that they're seeking a higher office. So I will look out for Chris Murphy. He is not necessarily a progressive. His policies don't fully align with mine and most progressives, but he is just a lesser known, more centrist Democrat who I think will become more popular in the upcoming months and years. Now, lesser known people who I am the most excited for. So this is the more exhilarating part, I guess, of this question. First of all, I got to go to Katie Porter. So I'm going to just throw it straight to a video. This is, like I said, Katie Porter.
What I'd like to do now, Mr. Bradway, is I'd like for you to please explain to the American public why you and 4 other executives deserve to pay yourselves tens of millions of dollars each year.
Right, I recognize that that's a considerable sum of money, and it's forward to a vote of the shareholders. Have overwhelmingly supported the compensation package for me and the other named executive officers.
Reclaiming my time, sir. Do you not know why you're getting hundreds of millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars a year?
Our compensation is consistent with competitive positions of other companies.
Mr. Bradway,
like
reclaiming my time. The other guy gets paid too much too isn't a justification. I'd like to hear what you do to deserve $124 million in salary, you and your top 5 executives, over a 3-year period.
More than 90% of my compensation is based on performance measures that include how our shares perform relative to the market, and our compensation program is aligned with that of our owners, our share owners.
I wish you would focus on creating value for sick patients, Mr. Bradway, not just your shareholders. I yield back.
You gotta love it when you have politicians like Katie Porter there in that video who are willing to take on big corporations and big pharma, but also do it in a way that is clear and consumable for the average American. So she is currently running for governor of California, and she has promised to take on Trump, take on big corporations, because she cares about issues that actually impact the average American person. Now, other people to look out for. Ro Khanna from California. He is a fairly popular progressive, but he is currently out leading town halls and doing a lot of that grassroots work. Jamie Raskins, I mentioned him a few times from Maryland. I think he is a very great communicator. I do not know if he is going to have aspirations to run for presidency, but I do see him as a strong member of Congress for years to come. And then last but not least, I'm going to mention someone who came up recently on my social media for a speech she gave, and it is Melanie Stansberry. So I'm going to play this clip for you guys and give a little reaction afterwards.
I think insanity is a good word for what's happening here on the House floor today. And today is one of those days where I'm like, what the hell are these folks doing? Because while our economy is in crisis, while groceries and housing are at an all-time high, while our veterans and our firefighters and our teachers are being illegally fired, while Elon Musk is dismantling the U.S. Department of Education, and while the Secretary of Defense is trying to cover up the most incompetent national security leak I have ever heard of in my life, the Republicans in the House are trying to save the American people from the scourge of walk-in cooler and refrigeration efficiency standards. How out of touch are you with the American people? Like, literally, I know you're not holding town halls and meeting with your constituents anymore, but you think that the American people voted for you to waste our time on refrigeration standards? That's what you think you were elected to do?
For me, Stansberry here is spot on. I don't know about you guys, but I know I am tired of seeing Congress waste their time on nonsense issues like distraction fringe issues rather than dealing with substantial issues like healthcare, childcare, education, minimum wage, right? Things that will tangibly make people's lives better. So I just think that is great by Stansberry. And what that is telling me from that speech is she understands the everyday American. All right. So that wraps up that first question, gives you a few Dems to follow that maybe haven't been on your timeline quite yet. Next question is about the Department of Defense group chat fiasco. I'm going to break it down for you guys in terms of what happened first. So basically there was an unsecured group chat through an app called Signal that revealed, precise details about military bombings in Yemen days before it took place. Now, the bad part about this, or how we figured out about this, is this group chat was also shared, or the information in this group chat was also shared with a journalist, an editor at Atlantic magazine called Jeffrey, or his name is Jeffrey Goldberg. So Goldberg said he was added by National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, and the messages contain information from Pete Hegseth about upcoming attacks and weapons deployment, and the White House has admitted it was authentic. So guys, this is a complete embarrassment. It is a national security fiasco. Conversations of this magnitude should take place in secure government facilities, not through group chat, unsecured messaging. And there's nothing like, dropping some emojis as we drop bombs on foreign nations. There's nothing more American than that. But nonetheless, let's roll forward and look at Trump's reaction to all of this.
I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what? Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective. I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it.
So clearly, guys, he has no idea what's going on. He was caught off guard. He obviously had to throw some jabs there at journalism and journalists, because if you aren't stroking his ego, he just can't handle it. He can't deal with any level of criticism. So obviously he had to attack journalists, and specifically The Atlantic here. But guys, he's not in control. He doesn't know what was going on. He had no idea about the text messages. He had no idea about the group chat. He knew maybe there was a strike. Like, there is evidence he knew there was a strike, obviously. But this administration, I want you guys to follow me when I say this. This administration is incredibly serious about how unserious they are. This is one of the most unqualified administrations in history. And with that comes one of the biggest security breaches in recent history. And we are less than 100 days into this administration. Now, what is Fox News doing? The biggest televised media outlet, the place where most people get their cable news from. They are trying to save their beloved Trump, their beloved Republican administration, rather than holding them accountable. Now, keep in mind, these are the same people who thought Obama's tan suit was a national security concern. And I'm not even going to get started with the Hillary Clinton emails and the amount of hypocrisy here. But if this, guys, was a serious country and we were a serious nation, Waltz at a minimum would be gone. He would have already resigned, and many others in the group chat would follow. But we will see. We may have literally one scapegoat out of all this because we just aren't a serious country anymore. And the Dems, I do not have confidence, will push this and message this in the serious nature it needs to be messaged. But we will see. Maybe I'll be wrong and more than one person will be forced to resign. We will see. Now, next question was about the Fight the Oligarchy Tour. I've been mentioning it before in podcasts, but the question was just like, what is that? So this is a tour led by long-term representative from Vermont, Bernie Sanders. He is he is the biggest progressive. I don't think AOC has caught him yet, but maybe you can have an argument. But he has been a progressive fighter, basically, guys, his entire career. And this dude is in his 80s at this point. Now, AOC, the second biggest, or I would have a reasonable debate to say the first. We could argue that. But recently joined Bernie, and the numbers, guys, for this tour have been stunning. So I'm going to give some of the recent stops and the number of people, so the crowd size that turned out. But this stretches all the way back actually to the beginning of March. So March 20th, Bernie was in North Las Vegas, which had 3,200 people, and then Tempe, Arizona, which had 15,000 people. Then the 21st was the big day. So earlier in the day, they went to University of Northern Colorado, which they had 11,300 people. But then later they went to Civics, they meaning AOC and Bernie, went to Civic Center Park in Denver, guys. And they turned out 34,000 people. And that is more people than Bernie has ever turned out, including during his presidential run. And it is the largest political rally in Denver since 2008. And you guys can see some of the images scrolling across right now. On the 22nd, they followed this up in Tucson, Arizona with another large crowd of 23,000. So what I'm going to do, guys, is play a little short clip from the tour so you can see what AOC and Bernie are fighting for and seeing why this is so appealing to myself and many other Americans out there.
In the hundreds of rallies that I have done, we have never, ever had a rally as large as this.
And this isn't just about Republicans. We need a Democratic Party that fights harder for us, too.
We will not allow America to become an oligarchy. This nation was built by working people, and we're not going to let a handful of billionaires run the government. No, it's not Bernie. Not Bernie. I got bad news for you. It's you.
I want you to look at every level of office around you and support Democrats who actually fight, because those are the ones that can win against Republicans.
Guys, this moment is huge. And I know we're in a really tough time, but this momentum is an amazing moment. And anyone telling you different, they are lying and they're trying to quell this momentum. But the excitement behind this, the crowds behind this, I think this is a linchpin, historic moment in progressivism and in the Democratic Party. What people are communicating by showing up to this is they are fed up with the status quo and they're fed up with the Democratic Party. Because guys, the Democratic Party as a whole has reached record low levels of favorability, but people like Bernie Sanders are still incredibly favorable with their electorate. The path forward for the Democratic Party is abundantly clear, and it's in the progressive wing. Whether the Democrats choose that path, time will tell. And I deeply, deeply fear if they go more centrist Republican type that they may not win future elections, because I think you win elections by having people who will fight for their constituents, and that fight lies within the Progressive Caucus. Now, in the description, I'm going to put a link to the website for the Fight the Oligarchy Tour so you guys could read more and see if they are potentially either just Bernie or Bernie and AOC, or maybe additional progressives or Democrats will join them. But you'll be able to see maybe if they're coming to a city or town near you. Now, last but not least is a personal question. And as we're getting started with this podcast, guys, we're a growing community. I don't mind you guys asking just questions about me. And this question was about, like, what is your podcast setup? It seems like you're doing a lot. How do you manage to, do this? Or, ultimately, what do you have going on to make this happen? So here's a picture of the setup and where I shoot. But the equipment, we have a large monitor that's hooked up to a PC that's sitting kind of underneath the desk where I live record directly into. And the editing software is called Camtasia. So that's the editing software that I record directly into, like I said, into the PC. Now, you guys can also see the microphone that is hooked up directly to the PC as well. And that's where my audio is recorded. And then the laptop underneath the monitor is where I actually pull up show notes that I want to reference during the episode. So important data, charts, key points, things like that I want to hit. I put that on the laptop as notes, and then I actually attach and use my phone as a webcam, and I attach that kind of to the top of the laptop, as you can see. So guys, that's pretty much it. I would lie, though, if I said this was a one-person show, because that would not be acknowledging the fact I could not do this without the support from my wife and what she is taking care of while I am able to shoot and edit. But let's just say this is just a two-person show, and we're making it work. No tricks, guys. I'm just trying to get all of the correct information, the information that I think you guys need to know, out to you in a way that's inspiring, in a way that we can move forward and be ultimately a better country. And as this channel does continue to grow, I'm sure this setup will look a little bit different, maybe updating my equipment from time to time. But for now, it definitely gets the job done. So guys, that wraps up this midweek mailbag. Please continue to submit any questions by commenting on any of my content, or emailing me at tjacksunpacks@gmail.com. And don't forget, please help grow the channel by liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. All of that, good YouTube stuff. And be part of a growing political movement that puts the average American first.